Marshall Peak, Chapter 1777, Is Your Sect Recruiting? Published by Divine Tao Library. Translator, Salavan and Pew Pew Lasergun. Editor and proofreader, Leo of Zion Mountain and Dale Ligerkeys. Little senior sister is indeed an Origin King grade alchemist, Yang Kai nodded. Yang Kai. Gui Zhu suddenly took a deep breath and asked in a deep voice, which cultivation star is your sect established on? Is your sect recruiting? Do you need a high cultivation elder or something? An honored guest elder would also be fine. No matter what it is, any title would be acceptable. Gui Zhu could not calm down at all. Although he had spent his years alone at ease, only he knew how sorrowful and difficult such isolation could be. For example, he had no one to ask if he wanted a pill refined. If he wanted to enter retreat to cultivate some secret technique, no one would protect him. He even needed to acquire the resources to cultivate by himself. All kinds of trivial matters put a great strain on him and wasted much of his time. This was very different from Origin Kings who belonged to great forces. Each of these masters would have extraordinary status, and if they needed anything, all they had to do was issue a command and countless disciples would rush around to fulfill their request. All those Origin Kings needed to do was cultivate with peace of mind. As such, there were times when Gui Zhu envied those Origin Kings who belonged to great forces. However, if he really was asked to join a great force, he would definitely refuse. After all, he wasn't willing to be restrained by others and did not want to tie himself to some force he had no connection with. But if it was the sect where Yang Kai was, it would be completely different. This sect had 3 Origin King grade alchemy grandmasters. This alone was a fatal attraction to Gui Zhu. Furthermore, he felt Yang Kai was quite easy to get along with, and their relationship was amicable, so his feelings of rejection towards the sect Yang Kai belonged to were comparably less. Seeing Gui Zhu offer himself up without him needing to take the initiative to invite him, Yang Kai was quite happy. He had not expected that Gui Zhu would suddenly propose joining High Heaven sect, but it made sense to Yang Kai after some thought. With both him and Chia Ning Chang being Origin King grade alchemy grandmasters, it really was not too difficult to win over an Origin King. It was just that Yang Kai had not been too keen on doing this. Even if there was no Origin King in High Heaven sect currently, that did not mean there would not be one or more in the future. Yi Shi Yun could already be considered a quasi-Origin King, and given her aptitude and foundation, breaking through to the Origin King realm in the future was basically a given. All she was lacking was an opportunity. However, if Gui Zhu wanted to join, that was not something he couldn't accept. After this period of getting along, Yang Kai also understood that Gui Zhu was not as sinister and vicious as he seemed. His ghastly aura was simply because of the secret art he cultivated. As various thoughts flashed across his mind, Yang Kai grinned. Junior belongs to a force called High Heaven sect that has its headquarters on Shadowed Star. Despite lacking in many places, this junior also serves as High Heaven sect's sect master. He briefly explained the situation of High Heaven sect to Gui Zhu. When he heard that High Heaven sect was founded by Yang Kai himself, Gui Zhu could not help admiring him greatly. When he learned that there was currently no Origin King in High Heaven sect, and that across Shadowed Star there was only a single, newly promoted First Order Origin King, Gui Zhu was overjoyed. He had thought that a great force which possessed several Origin King grade alchemy grandmasters would not be weak, and perhaps already have many Origin Kings serving it. If that was the case, his joining would just be adding flowers to a bouquet, but now it seemed that he could directly become the strongest master of High Heaven sect and Shadowed Star if he really joined. The difference in status between these two situations was completely different from what he had expected before. He could become a supreme existence in one leap. So Gui Zhu was even more enthusiastic and could not wait to ask, Yang Kai, this old master has wandered about all alone for most of his life, and ever since escaping that floating continent, he has drifted about without any place to stop and rest. What do you say to this old master calling your High Heaven sect home? This old master doesn't have many requirements. As long as he can hang the title of honored guest elder next to his name and he can enjoy the care of those Origin King grade alchemists to occasionally refine a few pills, this old master will be satisfied, ha ha. He was very direct and honest. Yang Kai laughed, a master like senior wishing to join High Heaven sect. How could this junior ask for anything more? Then it's settled. Gui Zhu's eyes lit up. Although he knew that Yang Kai probably would not refuse him, Gui Zhu was still happy when he heard Yang Kai agree. This way, he could approach the Origin King grade alchemist Yang Kai spoke of, and as long as he found the appropriate herbs in the future, he wouldn't need to worry about having someone to refine them into pills for him. How could his strength not improve rapidly at that point? Guizhou could already imagine a future where he broke through to the pinnacle of the Third Order Origin King realm and stood at the very peak of the entire star field. It's settled. Yang Kai nodded happily, but the status of honored guest elder doesn't fit senior's great strength, so instead, you shall be the sect's supreme elder. Guizhou's body shook violently as he stared deeply at Yang Kai, his heart unable to settle for quite some time. Although he had never joined any great force before, he knew the difference between an honored guest elder and a supreme elder. An honored guest elder, although granting some rights and privileges, was really nothing more than an in-name position with no real power at all. On the other hand, a supreme elder was completely different. Supreme elders held real power. Strictly speaking, that power was so great it only ranked below that of the sect master. There were even some great forces where supreme elders were ranked higher than the sect master and were existences that could easily mobilize all the sect's resources and disciples with absolute authority. However, being an honored guest elder also had its advantages. When the sect encountered grave danger it could not resolve, an honored guest elder could choose to help or not according to their own situation, giving him a high degree of freedom, but a supreme elder had to advance and retreat together with the sect, sharing life and death with it. Supreme elders were generally the highest in terms of seniority in a sect, and only those with superb qualifications could hold such a post. Guizhou had not expected that Yang Kai would directly give him the title of supreme elder, and although the risks he would have to bear became greater if he accepted, the benefits and treatment he would receive would be proportionally better. Yang boy, you treating this old master with such courtesy demands that this old master respond with equal sincerity. All right, this old master does not speak empty words. When the time comes, this old master will not disgrace his title as a supreme elder. Guizhou quickly said. Even though he was not a young man anymore, Yang Kai's words had still made his blood boil, so he directly spoke these bold words. Senior is too serious. Since this junior offered you the position of supreme elder, he does not doubt you, Yang Kai chuckled. You still call me senior? Guizhou asked with a grin. Junior greets supreme elder. Yang Kai quickly cupped his fists and replied sincerely. Many thanks, sect master. Guizhou also replied, from now on, this old master is a member of High Heaven sect and will thus be troubling sect master. If sect master has any instructions, please don't hesitate. After speaking, the two looked at each other and laughed loudly, as if they had made some kind of illicit deal just now. Good, after this trip to the severed world is over, this old master will follow you back to the sect, Guizhou said with a look of yearning. He was very curious about what kind of sect could cultivate a monster like Yang Kai. Since he had chosen to join High Heaven sect, he wanted to see it and determine its strength and prospects. A simple matter. I'll be together with you so this news will reach the sect promptly and without incident, Yang Kai nodded. Saying so, Yang Kai's brow suddenly rose and he said, Supreme Elder, I suddenly had a thought. What? We should act separately, that way our search range will greatly increase and the number of treasures we can collect will double. What do you think? Yang Kai had not made such a suggestion before primarily because although he had a good relationship with Guizhou, they were not true allies, so such a proposal wasn't appropriate as it may cause Guizhou to misunderstand his intentions. But now it was different. With Guizhou joining High Heaven sect, Yang Kai no longer had any scruples making this proposal. Guizhou thought for a while and said, if we separate, we can indeed search a wider area and our gains will also increase, but there are too many void cracks here. Although this old master can discover most of them, there are some which are hidden so deeply that this old master cannot discover. Without you, this old master is not confident he can act freely. Just like the situation a moment ago, when the seven-colored radiant light was approaching, Guizhou would have been engulfed by the multicolored light and the consequences would have been disastrous if Yang Kai had not found a place to escape. Hey, since I am suggesting this, I naturally have a method to allow Supreme Elder to discover those void cracks, Yang Kai smiled confidently. Oh, does Sect Master have some way to allow this old master to sense the surrounding void cracks? Guizhou asked in surprise. Yang Kai grinned, I can leave a space mark on you so that you can perceive those hidden cracks. You can do that? It should be possible. Come, let's try. Yang Kai wasn't completely sure as he had never done this before, but after swallowing and fusing with the energy of the spatial helix, his understanding of the Tao of space had reached a new height so he felt he could be able to accomplish this. If you can really do it, then it would undoubtedly be a boon, Guizhou nodded. With Guizhou's consent, Yang Kai took a deep breath and pushed his space force to condense a small, swirling vortex at the tip of his finger. The next moment, Yang Kai gently tapped towards Guizhou's chest. This spiral suddenly exploded and transformed into a type of seal which remained on Guizhou. "Oh, this is Space Force," Guizhou muttered in surprise. Even though he was a second-order Origin king, he could not help marveling at the profoundness of the Space Force mark on his chest. This mark seemed to send Space Force fluctuations into his surroundings, then feedback information to him. There were a few places nearby where the feedback information was different, and when Guizhou looked towards those places, he suddenly discovered that there were void cracks at each of them. And one of them was the hidden crack he and Yang Kai were hiding behind. Before, he couldn't sense this void crack at all, and only after its shape was outlined by the 7-colored radiant light was he able to see it. But now, he could perceive it clearly. It was as if a certain special perception had been added to his own.